Okay, today we are going to be exploring how to paint using watercolor pencils and watercolor crayons. They're like oil pastels, except they're water soluble. Water soluble means that it dissolves with water and then it becomes like a paint. So essentially, when you're putting the pencil or the crayon on the paper, you're putting paint down and you just need to wet it to activate the paint. So first, we're going to fold our paper into sections so that we can experiment. So I'm going to fold it in half, open it up, fold it in half the other way, open it up. As I open it up each time, you'll notice I try to lay it pretty flat because when we add water, we don't want things falling into the crease. And then, so I folded it in half, folded it in half. The last fold is going to be left side over to the center crease like this. So this will give us 4 sections here and 2 larger sections where we can experiment. So in the 4 sections here, you're going to do the following, and then you'll be able to explore and play over here. So in the top left section, you are going to take any colored pencil. Now these are watercolor pencils. So what you should see, you should check and make sure that the one you pick up says Crayola watercolor, and you'll see a picture of a paintbrush. If you don't see a picture of a paintbrush, it's not a watercolor pencil with this brand. So for example, this was mixed in with the watercolor pencils, but this one doesn't have a paintbrush on it anywhere. So this is not water soluble. The water will not make this blend. So this should not be used. If you see one of these, take them out and show me and let me know and I'll move it. Doesn't belong there. Only look for paintbrush on the brushes, on the pencils we have. Okay, so first I'm going to take my colored pencil and I'm going to lay down some color. I would press pretty hard and try to keep it even. You don't want to just do a scribble like that. That's not enough pigment or paint on the paper. It won't blend well. So really fill it in pretty solidly. Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing with one of the crayons, I'm sorry. Any color, again, that you want. I'll just stick with purple since I kind of have that going on. So in the same section, so I can see my fold is here, I'm going to do the same thing with the purple. Press pretty hard, keep your coloring close and tight together, okay? Next, I'm going to take my brush, dip it into the water, swish it around first. Always make sure it's clean. If you see color coming out of it, it's dirty, clean it good before you use it. To clean the brush, you kind of push it on the bottom like that, and hear that? That sort of cleans out the paint that might get stuck by this metal piece. This metal piece is called the ferrule, which is holding the bristles to the handle, okay? So we clean that off. If there's a lot of water on it, drip it on the edge of your cup or bowl. You don't want to tap because that will splash water on everybody across from you. So just dip, drip, and now I'm going to use the wet brush to coat over my watercolor pencil first. And you'll see that as I add water, it blends that right up. And I can use this to paint all across the paper, okay? Ta-da, magic. Clean the brush, clean it, drip it. Do the same thing with the watercolor crayon. That might take a little bit more effort to move around to get rid of that texture of crayon. Just depends sometimes on the color. And clean it off again. Next, in this section, you're going to go from one color to the next. So I'm going to start with the same color just so I can see what it does. And I'm going to bring it, careful, I'm scratching the paper, nice and solid, over to touch to about halfway. And grab another pencil. Helps sometimes if there's similar colors. So this is like a red violet or a maroon, and that other one was like a dark violet. That's called an analogous color, colors that are near each other on the color wheel. And it helps if you overlap the colors a little bit in the middle to help them start to blend. Do the same thing with your oil pastels, your watercolor crayons. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to dip, drip it on the side, and paint. And my goal is to watch these mix. Ooh, pretty. So I go back and forth. When you're painting, use your brush on its tippy toes. You shouldn't be pushing the brush flat to the paper where the ferrule is getting close to the paper. And it helps if you just sort of drag it in lines like that. It makes it nice and neat looking, okay? If you're getting too much of one color into the other, just clean your brush again, drip your brush again, and just pick it up and move back the other way. Okay? Clean it. Try it with the watercolor crayons. I'm going to clean my brush because I notice a lot of my purple is dragging into my red, so now I'm going to start from the other side and sort of work that out again. There we go. Mixed up. All right, on the bottom left, you're going to go from dark to light. This is called a graded wash. So I'm going to press hard with one colored pencil, and then I'm going to gradually lighten how hard I press with my hand to make it fade out. Do the same thing with the crayon. Press really hard, press light. Now when I press light, I'm not just scribbling. Again, I'm still keeping my marks very close together. Okay, I still want enough of the paint, the pigment on that paper. All right, again, dip, drip, wet. Now I'm gonna go in nice stripes, nice and even, and you should see this gradually getting lighter. Ta-da! Clean your brush, same thing, dip, drip. And last but not least, we're going to get the same effect with this next one. You're just going to scribble really hard with one color. And you guys can change colors. I just stuck with the same two colors for the easiness of it for this demonstration. You can switch up your colors if you choose. So I'm just making a really hard scribble with each of my colors. Again, pencil on top and crayon on the bottom. I dip my brush, drip my brush. Now this time, I'm going to wet this spot up really good and use the paint here to drag it across the way I did this graded wash here. So I made myself a little paint palette on the paper by scribbling with the paint. You can always add a little more water to your brush to continue on to get it even lighter if you choose to, but always remember to dip and drip so that you don't have a flood on your paper, okay? Okay, I'm gonna clean it, dip and drip. I'm gonna do the crayon next. Some of this doesn't quite lift without a little extra effort. Sometimes you have to add a little more brush stroke, but make sure you don't scrub the paper too hard with the brush because you will end up kind of tearing at the paper. So in the last two sections, you can draw something with either one of the crayons or the pencils, or both if you choose, and sort of explore, make a little picture, see what that will do. I'll give you some examples of ones that I did here. You're also going to write your name on the bottom, very important. Write your first name and last name. I'm just writing my last name. So one example of a little sketch that I did a little bowl where I just traced the outline. I drew the outline with a colored pencil, and then I shaded a little bit with the color here, and I left this white. And then I used the water and the brush to sort of blend it, okay? So here I made a little flower. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Give it a try and have fun.